You want to capture those thoughts before they float away and then you never find them again. I'm going to talk about capture method as a very important foundational part for your productivity and your life. Hi, I'm Em. I talk about productivity and systems, and this is about all things capture. In this all about capture video, I'm going to talk about what is capture, why is it important, how to build the system and what kind of containers to use, how to capture well, what do I actually capture, and what happens after I capture. Then I'm going to have a little side note to hopefully quell some concerns, and then talk a little bit about which. And we'll let you see what the which is later. What is capture? Capture is recording things that come into your world, your life, thoughts, ideas, physical things, things in your mind, digital things, anything that you might have to do later or want to do or think about later. We want to get them into a system that you can trust, aka a trusted system. I'm going to use a lot of GTD, getting things done terminology. When I'm using a kind of GTD specific word, I'll flash them on the screen a certain way so you'll know that's a thing. I'm going to jump in here with a real quick simplified version of the GTD steps. The 5 steps of GTD are capture, process, organize, reflect, and do. Now, actually, it's supposed to be engage at the end, but I couldn't even put that. The reason I call it simplified, even though there's a bunch of more words there, is really I see those middle chunks all as being done together, but also separate. I think that's the part where really you end up personalizing your system. You need to capture well, and you need to get things done. That's the do part. But the part in between, again, there'll be another video, but process and organize, I see those just always hand in hand. I never see them separate, so I don't really know why they get 2 steps. And then the reflect part used to be called review. I call it reset because I do that whole thing together. I do quick processing and organizing throughout the week, but during that weekly planning session, that weekly reset session is when I do a lot of the processing and organizing and the reflecting, and you might do it differently. But anyway, that's my simplified but not so simple version of the GTD 5 steps. Capture is part of the GTD system, the first step, and it's really a form of batching or preventing context switching so that you, when something comes to you, you don't have to break your train of thought. You just capture it and move on. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to process it. You're not going to do anything with it. You're just going to get it someplace that you know it will resurface later. This is a follow-up to my Choose 4 Things video, and that one captures the first step, so you're fine watching this first. If you haven't watched the other, it'll be down below, and I'll do more standalone videos like this on each of the steps. Now, that's not for an exhaustive overall productivity system. It's for a very basic one, and you will need other things to bolt onto it depending on your life and work and preferences. There is one thing in addition to those 4, and I'll talk about it more throughout this video. I also talked about throughout the other one. Why is it important for you to be thoughtful about your capture containers or your capture system? The whole reason for a productivity system like this is to relieve the mental load, to get you some peace and clarity on things. Getting things done, David Allen talks about mind like water, and there's cognitive science that your brains are not for holding information, they're for having ideas. And so you want your information to be out of your brain as quickly as possible, but someplace you know you can find it. That's what the capture containers are all about. So you want to build this trusted system, and in order to trust the system, you need to know things have a predictable way of getting in and a predictable way of getting out when you need them again. The origin of this particular step is the actual physical inbox. Think old school, tray on your desk. And if you think about it, if this came about in the business world, back in the day, that was the only way you got stuff, unless it was like, verbally. It was mail, went in your in basket. You got a phone message, it went on a piece of paper, it went on your in basket. There was a memo around the office, it went in your in basket. That was it. Now that we have digital things, things can come into your world in email and in phone, but phone might be on a voicemail system that you have to retrieve. There's just so many different ways. Our world has gotten so much more complex, even though easier in lots of ways, but definitely more complex. I left out that you are still going to have paper coming into your world. You're going to have mail, you're going to have receipts, you're going to have flyers that you need to deal with, forms to fill out. It's just a much smaller part of our world now, since so much stuff is either digital, and really capture so much of the stuff is stuff that's just coming into your head that you don't want to lose. We need now to have a way to think through all those possible ways we get information and know that we are handling things when the information comes to us. How to build a good capture system, or what makes good capture containers. You're going to probably have multiple tools, but you need to think of them as one overarching habit of capturing. Also, I might say collecting sometimes. That's the old term in GTD, but capturing, collecting, pick your favorite. You probably want to have some default so that if you have options, there's one that you'll be your go-to if it's available. But you're going to have situations where you need something else as well. You need a reasonable balance between convenience and chaos. You need to always have something available. So it's probably, like I said, not going to be just one thing. You're going to have a main thing. For me, my main thing is reminders on my phone, using Siri for the most part, but that doesn't mean it has to be that for you. But you want to think through all the different places that you spend time in your life, as many as you can think of if you think they have some differentiation to them. At work, are you at a desk? Are you in a store? Are you out on the road? So your car, regardless if you drive or if you're on public transportation, when you're around the house, if you spend time outside, when you're on a walk, when you're in the shower, when you're traveling in someone else's car or vehicle, all these different places. If you spend time in them, you want to think about, well, if I have an idea there, how am I going to get it? And sometimes it's a matter of writing it down. Have specific ways that you can write things down if that's something that you think might be the case. But, think about if I'm working in the garden or if I'm cooking and, doing things with my hands in water or in food, then it's usually a matter of my voice assistant helping me out. And think about if that would be helpful for a large part of your world as well. Even opening the shower curtain and calling out from the shower, having the phone on the bathroom counter, that takes care of that too. So you want to take care of all those places, but you also don't want to have more places than you need. You want to have as many as you need, but as few as possible. And what's that right number? I can't tell you. It's going to be different for everybody, and yours is going to shift over time as your life, has different things that come in and out of it. But you want to always kind of be thoughtful, because otherwise you're going to have a container out there that you forget to check, and that is not good. And I'm also eventually going to talk about some lurking places, but I don't want to scare you in this video. But there are some lurking inboxes or lurking capture containers that we need to maybe think about once we have the big basics under control. What do I actually capture, and how do I do it well? In order to trust the system, consistency has to be the key. So what do you capture? Err on the side of capturing if you're unsure. You don't want to be thinking, is this worthy of going into my system? You want to just get it into the system, and the time for that decision making is later. That's what I mean that this is a form of batching, because you don't want to spend your time thinking about it now, evaluating. Just put it down and worry about later whether it's something you want to keep or just toss. If you have an idea like, I should drink more water. So question, does that go in your system? Well, if you mean like right now, I should drink more water, well then get up and go get a glass of water. There's a 2-minute rule in GTD. And that's if something will take you less than 2 minutes, just do it. Don't get it into your system. It's more trouble than it's worth. Just get it done, take care of it. And that 2 minutes is arbitrary. Figure out for you if that's 30 seconds, 2 minutes, or 5 minutes, or 10, whatever. But if it's hydration is important. I'm really trying to up my nutrition and my health, and so I should look into drinking more water. Maybe I should get a new water bottle. Maybe I should look for an app to help me track it or keep track of it in my planner. Then that's something that goes in your system for you to flesh out and maybe have more action steps. And so that kind of thing, yeah, that goes into the capture system. But you don't need to write down all those thoughts now. You need to write down enough of those thoughts so you'll know what you meant. If you just write down water, what does that mean? Water the plants, drink more water, buy water. What does that mean? Be kind to your future self when you're capturing. Don't capture vague. If it says call Joe, do you know more than one Joe? You got to make sure you know which Joe you mean. Why are you calling Joe? Is it a business thing? Is it a personal thing? Did you borrow something? Do you need something? Do you just want to chat? Did something come up that sparked that, hey, Joe would like that. I should call Joe and tell Joe about that. So you want to write down enough stuff. I have a story that somebody referred me to a book, and I wrote down the title of the book, but I didn't write down, this is the title of a book that you want to read. And so-and-so referred you to it. So I saw that reminder and I had no idea what it was. Luckily, the person mentioned the book again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so glad you brought that up, because that's been sitting on my desk on a Post-it and I had no idea what it meant. So I am not perfect at this. You will not be perfect at this. It's a learning process. You just try to get better as you go along. What happens after capture? You will need to go through this list or these lists and process them eventually. And what that processing means will differ depending on your system. But I do it through a weekly review process. You might need to do it more than that. I go through, quickly daily and make sure there's nothing I need to do, but then kind of the major, like deciding, is this important? Is this not important? That I do on a weekly basis, or sometimes even for the things that I know aren't urgent, maybe even every other week. But that, where I said there's 4 things you need to decide, there's this other 5th thing that's going to be, you need a review process and reflection, review. I call it a weekly reset. That's another thing that you'll need to do. And so that's where the processing and the organizing takes place. Again, at least weekly, if not more, and then at some level, maybe even less. I do have a video that's a peek at my weekly reset down below. It isn't a full like GTD review. It was just a little kind of, here's a starter version, and it also leans more towards the full focus weekly preview method versus a GTD getting things done weekly review, weekly planning session. It's down below. Check it out. And if you want more, let me know. I plan to do more, but just not there yet. And speaking of GTD, this is the side note period. I just always hesitate to even say GTD because I know it just freaks some people out. And especially maybe you've tried this capture part before. Part of the problem with getting things done, the book or the system, especially the book, if you go at it from that angle, is when he talks about the steps, I don't think David Allen does a great job of differentiating between what it looks like on a regular basis as you're rolling and the first initial time. Now, this first initial time, it's kind of a bear. And I do have another video, lots of links in this one, down below for like when I did a kind of a big major capture process to kind of reset my system early this spring. So when you do it at first, it may seem overwhelming and you're like, oh my gosh, I couldn't do this every week. There is a big startup. It's a startup investment, but then it's a matter of just tweaking your system little by little by little. And once you get rolling, it is not that bad to maintain. But if you've like tried it before and you're like, no, that didn't work for me, just know that you need to work the system for a little while in order to get it to be a maintainable, not overwhelming kind of thing. It's not you, it's the system. You got to know. Now, I said at the end there would be a which part of this. So a lot of questions probably are, which app should I use? Which method should I use to capture? I cannot tell you. Now, if you've watched any of my stuff, I am a paper and pen person with my spiral notebooks and Post-it notes. I am an all Apple ecosystem. So I have, MacBook, iPhone, Apple Watch, use CarPlay. So if those things aren't your world, then anything I say is not going to necessarily be helpful. So I plan to do little standalone videos on different options. I definitely am going to be building out something fairly quickly on reminders because I think it's very useful for a lot of people, and it's a good at least entry, and then you can take off from there if you are in the Apple ecosystem, or at least if you have an iPhone. But beyond that, if you have questions about a specific way to capture, please put them down in the comments. Or if you have a specific app maybe you've used in the past and it didn't work and you really like to pick it up again because there's parts of it you like, let me know. Because if it's something that I could use on a Mac, I almost guarantee it. I have used any one of the major, task management systems, project management systems, free, paid, pay as you go, standalone, old, bought an app one time, still have it. If it's a web-based thing, I've probably tried it. So definitely, if you have questions on specific ones, let me know. I'm happy to answer questions if you reach out, make a video if I have the knowledge to do so. And thanks so much for being here. I plan to do the other steps in the 4 things series. So this is capture your ideas and thoughts and everything else that comes in your world. There's a calendar, right? Your calendar appointments, record your events and appointments on a calendar. I don't have a lot to say, so I might clump that in with one of the other things. There is manage your tasks. So again, do more on task management, project management, and then plan your day. So I do have a couple things on my daily planning pages and things in other resources. Starting to get some stuff built out. Just if you can't find something, I'm still trying to figure out the organization part of the online stuff that is YouTube. So please ask if you want to see something specific. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you again next time. You want to capture those thoughts before they float away and then you never find them again.